Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we sift through the sources you share with us and extract the essential knowledge, the surprising connections, and the unforgettable insights.
Today, we are undertaking a deep dive into the true cost of extreme human longevity.
And we're not talking about, those rare individuals who hit 100 or 110.
No, not at all.
We are plunging into the mind of someone who has existed for 4 centuries.
Indeed. Our source material today is focused on the hidden existence of Tom Hazard, a man born in France on March 3rd, 1581, yet whose physical appearance arrested around the age of 40.
To put that into perspective for you, when Tom was born, Elizabeth I was Queen of England. He saw the transition from the quill to the tweet.
It's an incredible span of time.
The source material captures his profound, almost geologic age beautifully. It says Tom is old in the way that a tree or a quahog clam or a Renaissance painting is old.
I love that quote. It's not just about a number of years, it's a different state of being.
Exactly. It's an age so vast it fundamentally changes the human experience.
And this deep dive reveals that Tom is not unique. There is a secret society of long-lived individuals, known amongst themselves as albatrosses, or albus.
Right, and the sources expose this extremely stringent, sometimes brutal organization designed to protect them from discovery by us.
By the mayflies.
The ordinary, short-lived humans, they call the mayflies.
Our mission today is to synthesize the unique psychological, social, and really the existential burden faced by someone who sees time flow past like this.
We need to understand the stringent rules that govern Tom's existence, the crushing weight of historical trauma, and his centuries-long desperate quest for love and connection.
Even when that connection is the single most forbidden thing in his world.
What is the true hidden price of living forever? Let's unpack this. So to start, we have to establish the central terminology, this contrast, right? Albatrosses versus mayflies.
Yes, and the choice of animal and insect is so deliberate and loaded with irony.
Mayflies are, of course, the aquatic insects whose adult lives often last for just a single day.
Their entire purpose is fleeting, intense, and then it's over, defined by rapid expiry.
And the albatross, conversely, was historically believed to be exceptionally long-lived, symbolic of endurance, these great journeys.
Although the source does note, rather dryly, that real-life albatrosses only live to about 60.
Which is less than that 500-year-old quahog clam they found, the one named Ming.
Exactly. But the metaphor still works perfectly for the emotional chasm between the two groups. Albus see us as desperately short-lived, while we see them as, well, mythic.
And for Tom, his personal experience with this extreme slowing started early.
Right. Born in 1581, he recounts that by 1623, when he was chronologically 42 years old, he physically still appeared to be a young teenager.
42 and looking like a teen, I can't even imagine. His aging just slowed to a crawl and then seemingly stopped.
It froze him in that middle-aged state. And this physiological anomaly, well, it became the terrifying, defining characteristic of his life.
This brings us to the fascinating medical perspective offered by the source material, or I guess the historical medical perspective.
Yes. In the late 19th century, Tom, under one of his many aliases, Edward Cribbs, he actually sought help from a respected British physician, a Dr. Jonathan Hutchinson.
And Hutchinson was a formidable figure, right? Known for his work in recognizing and classifying a condition called progeria.
That's right. And this is key to understanding Tom. Progeria, which is derived from the Greek pro for early and geras for old age, is premature aging.
These are the poor children who rapidly develop symptoms of extreme old age, hair loss, weak bones, and often die before their teens.
So if progeria is aging too quickly, Tom's condition is the precise mirror image opposite.
Right. Hutchinson recognized this and coined the term anageria.
The absence of aging, or at least aging so slowly as to be functionally immortal. The Albatross Society later adopted this term for their condition.
But the sources stress that this physiological youth comes with this immense internal cost. The mind, while it's sharp, is just overwhelmed by the relentless accumulation of centuries.
Yeah, Tom constantly suffers from intense memory pain, headaches.
And that phrase, memory pain, is such a critical insight into the psychological burden.
It's not just a headache, it's a cognitive overload. The source compares it to altitude sickness, but, of time.
A vertical headache is what he calls it.
Yes. Tom describes this sheer jumble of memories. Shakespeare's London rubbing up against the roar of 1920s cars and the isolation of the digital age.
So the centuries don't sit neatly in his mind, they just collide, causing him to drift away from the present moment.
A mind designed for 80 years is forced to retain 400 years of sensory input, Language changes, architectural styles, and the faces of millions of fleeting acquaintances.
The memory itself becomes a source of agony, not comfort.
And this internal chaos requires external structure. And that's really the genesis of the Albatross Society.
It's led by this near-mythic figure, Hendrik, an Alba, who's estimated to be close to 1,000 years old.
Wow, 1,000 years.
The society's function is practical. They offer identity papers, financial resources, and a system of insurance against discovery.
But the price for these benefits is absolute, unquestioning adherence to Hendrik's rules.
And Hendrik's central strategy is the cultivation of paranoia.
He constantly emphasizes that the modern world, with its surveillance, photography, medical records, and detailed databases, is far more dangerous than the pre-industrial past.
Back when disappearing was easy.
Exactly. So the fundamental structure of survival is codified in what he calls the 8-year rule.
This rule is so simple, but its emotional and practical toll is just devastating.
An Alba must move, change residence, and adopt an entirely new identity every 8 years. The moment their lack of visible aging becomes apparent, they have to sever all ties.
Abandon their entire life and just relocate.
And you have to think about the practical logistics involved, which the source hints at. Every 8 years, a new backstory, new credentials, assimilate into a completely different cultural moment.
This isn't just changing your clothes, it's discarding friends, careers, homes, any fleeting romantic connection.
Tom has been John Frears, Edward Cribbs, Daniel Honeywell, countless others. He's been forced into roles he admired and roles he intensely disliked.
On the right side, and sometimes the wrong side of history, as he says.
It's the exhaustion of perpetually reassimilating. Imagine constantly learning new slang, new technologies, new social mores.
Knowing that none of it can ever be truly permanent, that 8-year cycle isn't a safeguard, it's a psychological reset button that forces emotional starvation.
Which leads directly to the core mandate Hendrik's prime directive, which he delivered starkly in 1891.
The first rule is that you don't fall in love. No staying in love, no daydreaming of love.
Because otherwise you will slowly lose your mind.
I mean, that is just chilling.
And Hendrik is very specific about what is permissible. He says Albus are allowed to love food and music and champagne and rare sunny afternoons in October.
So you can love objects, experiences, sensual pleasures.
Right, because those things don't age and leave you behind. But the love of a person, particularly a mayfly, is strictly off limits.
We have to analyze why this rule is so paramount. It's based on a chilling calculus, isn't it?
It is. If you live 400 years and every 80-year life you love ends, the cumulative loss doesn't just equal 5 deaths.
It equals hundreds of years of separation and grief.
The society believes that the only way to retain your sanity across millennia is to avoid creating meaningful emotional anchors that will inevitably be ripped away.
So love, for an Alba, isn't defined by joy. It's defined by the pain that is stretched across centuries.
Tom realizes that the terror lies in this idea, to exist when the point of view is gone.
If a mayfly life is short and precious, an Alba life is long and meaningless without purpose, and love provides the only true meaning.
So if that meaning is lost repeatedly, the psychological cost is, well, madness.
And this is where the narrative tension really begins, because Tom, despite the rules and the fear, has already broken this rule multiple times.
And it's left him profoundly scarred and guilt-ridden.
Let's shift now to that profound theme of loss, which really defines Tom's existence.
Despite having 400 years of life experience, the sources emphasize that he has only truly loved 3 people: his mother, his wife Rose, and his daughter Marion.
And as we discussed, each relationship was terminated by the very condition he couldn't control.
The first, and arguably the foundational trauma, is the loss of his mother in Suffolk in 1599.
This is where his long life really began to feel like a curse.
At 18 years old, he still looked like he was 13, and this visible lack of aging, this physical strangeness, was seized upon by fearful villagers.
And this was the peak of the witch trial era, a period of immense superstition and fear.
The villagers, confused by his French mother and his unchanging appearance, they called him by his birth name, Etienne, came to suspect her of witchcraft.
They believed she had traded her soul for his eternal youth.
The scene described in the source is horrifyingly specific. The antagonist, a man named Manning, a self-appointed, ignorant witch-finder.
He subjected his mother to the devil's spot prick test using a dagger.
Tom's frantic attempts to explain that the marks were just flea bites were dismissed. Manning used Tom's eternal youth as the definitive proof of their malevolent trade.
She was later drowned, and Tom spent the next centuries internalizing this immense guilt.
Believing that his very existence, his simple physical anomaly, was the direct cause of the death of the person he loved most.
The age-old fear of the mayflies became the weapon that destroyed his family.
It was shortly after this devastating event that Tom Haggard, broken and broke, met his great love, Rose Claybrook, in London.
On Fairfield Road, of all places, he was trying to buy a basket of plums he couldn't afford.
And Rose and her sister Grace took him in, providing him with a fragile sense of safety.
Their early life in Hackney, in their small house on Well Lane, offered a unique anchor for him.
Rose was very perceptive. She noticed that Tom's eyes looked far older than his supposed 16 years, but she wasn't deterred by the mystery.
She eventually accepted the shocking truth of his condition.
And the source material focuses on the profound nature of their connection. Their kiss is described as something like music. It stalks time.
For Tom, a man perpetually hurtling forward through history, Rose was the one person who could momentarily halt the crushing flow of centuries.
She anchored him entirely in the present moment. They married, and in 1607 their daughter Marion was born, providing Tom with the only sense of permanence he would ever know.
But the societal danger, that fear of the mayflies, it never disappeared. Over the years, hostile messages like "Satan resides here" were scraped onto their door.
And the growing age gap became untenable, Tom looking barely 20 while Rose was approaching 40.
It made their continued life together impossible.
This led to the Great Separation around 1617. Tom fled, making the gut-wrenching realization that he had become the very danger he sought to protect his wife and daughter from.
Echoing his mother's tragic fate, he broke his own heart to save them from the mayfly world's suspicion.
The last devastating chapter of this love story occurs during the 1623 plague in London.
Despite years of separation, Tom, driven by relentless anxiety, went to visit Rose.
He found her in their marked house on Chapel Street, ravaged by the plague, covered in sores, delirious, and looking every bit of her nearly 50 years.
He witnessed the profound fragility of the mayfly lifespan up close, and it hurt him more than any physical pain he had ever endured.
In that dark house, he learned two critical, life-altering pieces of information.
First, Rose had never stopped loving him, and second,
Their daughter Marion had run away after displaying the same condition, stopping her aging process around age 11.
so Rose died in that plague-ridden house, and Tom felt a hole opened up, dark and bottomless, falling through centuries of existence with the memory of his anchor gone.
This massive accumulation of loss forced a continuous identity crisis.
How do you survive that? Tom's admission, "I am not a person, I am a crowd in one body." It speaks directly to the internal fragmentation caused by the 8-year rule and centuries of loss.
He has worn dozens of personalities, each one a mask designed for survival. Which persona is the real Tom?
The lute player in 1599, the sailor in 1772, the pianist in 1928, or the history teacher today.
It's the constant psychological strain of knowing that every new relationship, every new career is temporary and ultimately a lie.
The loss isn't just external, it's internal. He lost the person he was when he was with Rose and the person he was with his mother. That core self is just shattered.
Leaving him fundamentally fragmented.
However, the driving force for the next 2 centuries wasn't grief alone.
It was the knowledge that Marion, who had inherited his condition, was still out there, somewhere.
That search gave him a crucial anchor and purpose, preventing him from collapsing into drink and despair entirely.
It provided a single thread of hope across the abyss of time.
It's fascinating, isn't it? After 400 years, he wasn't looking for a new love or a new life. He was looking for a link back to the one life that mattered, the one point that stopped time.
This transition from personal loss to global historical observation is where Tom's unique perspective truly shines.
In the modern era, Tom adopts a profession that allows him to constantly confront his reality. He becomes a history teacher in a London secondary school.
The irony is so rich. He's teaching history to mayflies, short-lived beings who believe the past is abstract.
But Tom doesn't need to read books. He lived the material. He tells his students, history already is alive. We are history.
Which is a terrifying statement coming from him.
His longevity grants him a radically different philosophical view of time and change compared to his students.
Tom observes that short-lived humans can afford to think small. They believe they are fixed inside a fixed nation with a fixed flag, and that their current cultural moment is permanent and pivotal.
But the Alba perspective reveals that nothing is fixed. If you live long enough, You witness the rise and fall of dozens of nations, the complete overhaul of moral systems.
The relentless redefinition of what is considered normal or essential. Nationalism, rigid worldviews, intense political ideologies, they mean very little in the long run.
He is a living, breathing antidote to historical myopia.
And despite the incredible passage of time, Tom concludes that the human mind doesn't truly progress.
Technology accelerates, societies become more complex, but fundamentally, he says, humans remain glorified chimpanzees, just with ever bigger weapons.
He notes that turning on the news today reveals the dreadful repetitions of human conflict and error that he witnessed century after century.
To truly grasp the flavor of Tom's existence, we have to detail some of these encounters. These aren't just facts. They are moments that condense 400 years of experience into a single breath.
Let's take 1599 in Bankside, London. Tom, under his birth name Estienne, worked for the Lord Chamberlain's men, playing the lute in the gallery.
And he encountered a drunken William Shakespeare who was already a star.
Shakespeare, often described as keenly perceptive, noted Tom's face was a riddle, looking both younger and older than his claimed age.
Think about that moment. Tom is breathing the air of the Renaissance master, observing the creation of language and theater that would define the next 4 centuries.
He's a young man, frozen in time, serving a master whose genius is exploding.
Yet he knows Shakespeare will be dust in a few decades, while he will still be playing his lute in a changed world.
Now fast forward to the 18th century. Around 1772, Tom sailed with Captain Cook on his second voyage, under the alias John Freers.
And this journey was critical because it was the first time Tom truly connected with another Alba.
He met Omai, an Alba from Tahiti.
Omai became Tom's rare fellow survivor, a person with whom he could speak his truth without fear of discovery or betrayal.
And the source highlights a shared act of rebellion. Tom refused to follow the orders of Wallace to burn down Omai's hut during the destructive first voyage.
It was an act of solidarity that crossed oceans and cultures, establishing a bond that would resurface centuries later.
To cement their bond, Tom showed Omai Marion's Elizabethan penny, the physical anchor he carried everywhere.
And he taught Omai the English word for money. That coin, a tiny piece of metal from 1581, was a tangible symbol of Tom's entire life, connecting his mother, Rose, Marion, and now Omai.
Okay, next jump. 1928 Paris. The Roaring Twenties.
Tom is working as a pianist at Ciro's and spends his off hours at Harry's bar. He finds himself in the orbit of F. Scott Fitzgerald and Zelda.
Witnessing the Mayfly generation that thought they were invincible, this is a perfect thematic contrast.
Tom overhears Fitzgerald lament, "If only we could find a way to stop time."
Scott, at the peak of his youth and success, desperately wished to freeze that moment of intoxicating happiness, to capture it like a butterfly.
But Zelda, who is perhaps more cynical, replies, "The trouble is they stick pins in butterflies, and then they are dead."
That exchange perfectly captures the Mayfly dilemma, the desperate desire to arrest time and immortalize happiness.
And Tom's reality is the exact opposite. He's time arrested, and he knows that trying to freeze anything inevitably kills it, forcing him into constant, painful flow.
His long life makes him a living embodiment of the impossibility of Fitzgerald's wish.
And the world around him was changing rapidly. In 1926 LA, Tom observed Charlie Chaplin, realizing that he had literally breathed the same air as the great Shakespeare 4 centuries earlier, and now the great silent film star.
He realized the world was becoming monumentally faster and louder. The noise of car engines, the booming scores of cinemas, the rapid pace of radio broadcasts.
The social systems themselves were fragmenting, becoming chaotic and fragmented like jazz scores.
Yeah.
His life became a silent, weary witness to this accelerating noise and non-progress.
Yet amidst this weariness, there is a strange joy for the historian within him.
He can look at a seemingly mundane London street corner and know that 200 years ago it was a slaughterhouse built next to an asylum.
The sounds of wailing cattle and wailing people mixing together. For Tom, the past isn't abstract. It's just the present hiding, always ready to rise up and overwhelm him with its density.
It sounds less like a life and more like a never-ending, highly detailed history lesson that he is forced to live inside.
But that historical perspective is exactly what Hendrik uses to control him and the other Albus.
Right, because the longevity of the albatrosses relies entirely on secrecy.
And Hendrik masters the art of weaponizing fear to ensure that secrecy. He constantly justifies the society's stringent rules and extreme measures by citing the danger of discovery.
He argues that modern science has simply become the new witch finders.
He warns the Albus that if their secret is exposed, the mayflies will not worship them, they will imprison, torture, and exploit them.
He uses historical parallels to reinforce this. You escaped the religious purges of the 16th century, but now you face the scientific zealots of the 21st.
And the sources reveal a chilling incident that Hendrik uses as his foundational justification. The Hutchinson incident in 1891.
This is when Tom, desperate for a medical cure or an understanding of his condition, foolishly revealed his secret to Dr. Hutchinson.
Which led the doctor to coin the term anageria.
And Hendrik's agent, a woman named Agnes, tracked Tom down and executed a chilling moral calculus.
She killed the aging 68-year-old Dr. Hutchinson to prevent the publication of his findings.
The rationale was cold but practical. The life of one elderly mayfly was a small price to pay for the protection of dozens of Albus who had centuries left to live.
And this act solidified Hendrik's power. He continuously cultivates this threat, citing the Institute for Experimental Research in Berlin, claiming they know about Albus.
He says they've imprisoned and tortured two of them in the laboratory where they kept their guinea pigs.
This narrative of an unseen war against exploitation is essential to keeping Albus compliant and fearful of the outside world.
Hendrik's mantra is simple. This is a war, Tom. It is an unseen war, but it is a war.
But the control isn't just external fear. It's internal manipulation. Hendrik sells the idea that Albus must be above them, morally and emotionally distanced from the mayflies.
And he encourages a life of purely sensual, fleeting pleasures. Food, liquor, art, poetry, music, cigars.
This insistence on hedonism while rejecting love is a brilliant, cruel strategy.
By banning emotional anchors, Hendrik ensures that Albus remain unattached to any location or person outside the society.
They become dependent on Hendrik for their identity papers, their financial security, their entire structure of survival. If they had deep mayfly connections, they might try to escape.
Without them, they have nowhere else to go.
This coercive system forced Tom into the morally dark corners of his life, notably the Bisbee assignment in the early 1900s.
Tom, desperate for purpose, or maybe just desperate to prove his loyalty after the Hutchinson near disaster, was sent to recruit two long-lived bandits.
Joe and Louie, who were drawing too much attention in the Arizona desert.
And this was where Tom realized he wasn't just a survivor, he was becoming Hendrik's enforcer.
He found himself parroting Hendrik's fear-based philosophy to the bandits, trying to scare them into joining the society.
When they refused to abandon their freedom, the encounter escalated violently.
Tom was shot. To survive, he was forced to kill both men with Joe's gun and bury them in the shallow graves they had dug for him.
The immense psychological toll of this murder, committed after centuries of merely observing history, left him wounded and profoundly disillusioned.
And when Tom confronted Hendrik, who was operating under the identity Cecil, a sophisticated property developer in L.A.,
Hendrik just casually dismissed Tom's guilt.
he claimed Tom was simply finding himself and getting rid of the pain of being a man.
The implicit message was clear. Violence, betrayal, and emotional sacrifice were necessary for the society's survival, and Tom was just a pawn in a larger game.
The ultimate and most profound betrayal, however, centered on Marion.
Despite Tom's decades-long agonizing search for his daughter, Hendrik had found her long ago.
Marion, having inherited the condition, was running away and confusing doctors, which led to her hospitalization at a psychiatric institution called Southall.
And Hendrik didn't recruit her out of paternal kindness.
No, it was out of cynical calculation. He trained Marion, who he referred to as a finisher, as his ultimate weapon.
The source reveals that Hendrik intended to use his own daughter against Tom if he ever truly broke ranks, such as failing to secure the loyalty of Omai.
This discovery revealed the society for what it truly was. Not a union of survivors, but Hendrik's centuries-old, fear-driven cult.
Tom realized the anchor that had sustained him for 200 years, the search for Marion, was a lie Hendrik had secretly controlled the entire time.
This internal tension just explodes with Tom's urgent final assignment.
He has to travel to Byron Bay, Australia, to convert Omai, now living as Saul Davis, who has utterly broken the 8-year rule and is gaining internet fame as the immortal guy.
And Omai becomes the ideological antithesis of Hendrik. He rejects the society and its fear-based existence.
He found profound meaning through love. His deceased wife, Hoku, who died in WWII, and through acceptance of loss.
Omai challenges Tom's belief that eternal life must be lived in eternal solitude. He argues against Hendrik's concept that time is all the same, an endless gray expanse.
He explains to Tom that most of time is empty days and years, but then you come across a year, or even a day or an afternoon, and it is everything. It is the whole thing.
For Omai, those perfect moments, usually found through connection, define the worth of the long life.
Omai's life proves the society's rules are arbitrary, not necessary. He lives openly with Hoku's daughter and her husband, both mayflies, and has revealed his secret to them.
He argues that fear of mayflies is overstated and that Hendrik's rules serve only to isolate and control.
Omai's philosophy is radical. Love is where you find meaning, not survival.
Meanwhile, back in London, a counter-narrative of hope emerges in the form of Camille, the French teacher at Tom's school.
Tom finds himself intensely drawn to her, an emotion he hasn't allowed himself to feel since Rose.
The complexity heightens when Camille suffers a seizure due to her epilepsy during a school event.
In her recovery, she stares at Tom and says one word that shatters his carefully constructed world: "See Rose."
See Rose. She recognized him from his alias as the elegant pianist in Paris in 1929.
This shocking recognition confirmed Tom's worst fear. The past never truly hides, and every connection risks exposure.
But it also presented a vital choice. Camille was either an Alba herself, dangerously close to knowing his truth, or somehow a mayfly whose memory stretched across nearly a century.
And this realization pushed Tom to a breaking point. He chose to trust her, confessing his 400-year condition to Camille in a restaurant.
He broke Hendrik's prime directive because he realized the lie he told himself, that survival demanded emotional numbness, was wrong.
His choice to trust Camille, a mayfly, was the most radical act of freedom he had committed in centuries.
It was a choice of integrity over mandated solitude. He finds himself feeling total understanding in her presence, seeing not just the past but the future lying ahead of him, uncertain but real.
But the crisis accelerates again. Hendrik, using his advanced aptitude, a heightened ability developed after 500 or 600 years to sense future probabilities.
He knew Tom wouldn't finish Omai. So Hendrik followed Tom to Australia, intending to kill Omai himself.
Hendrik attempts murder by splashing petrol around Omai's house. He claims Tom was never really a finisher, demonstrating his deep contempt for Tom's lingering morality.
This moment represents the final, violent collision between Hendrik's philosophy of fear and Tom's burgeoning philosophy of connection.
But the narrative shifts dramatically. Marion, who Hendrik had sent to follow Tom, steps in.
She was supposed to be Hendrik's finisher, his weapon against Tom. But in that moment, she chooses her true father.
She shoots Hendrik, who, engulfed in the petrol fire, staggers to the edge of a cliff and falls to his death.
It's a powerful, cathartic resolution. The tyranny of the society, embodied by the near-immortal, fear-mongering Hendrik, is destroyed by an act of love and filial loyalty.
Tom is finally free from the society's coercion.
And he uses his anchor, the Elizabethan penny Marion's lucky coin, the physical thread that spanned the centuries, to reconnect with his daughter.
She was trembling and weeping in his arms. She was manipulated, but she chose love over the conditioning of the society.
Tom's final, radical decision is to live in the open. He realizes that the fear of loss, the past, and the fear of the future, Hendrik's threats, those were the real prisons.
He chooses integrity and emotional honesty. He texts Camille, apologizing for his evasiveness and warning her that she might be in danger, but ultimately chooses to stop letting secrets hurt people. Tom Hazard's journey is one of self-reclamation. He moves from being a crowd in one body, tormented by the colliding memories of the past and the fear of the future,
to choosing to exist openly, despite the danger of discovery.
His realization is the ultimate synthesis of his 400 years. The way you stop time is by stopping being ruled by it.
And the source suggests that total understanding of time comes in these brief, brilliant bursts. Agnes described it as a single second, where one sees the past and the future simultaneously.
Years later, we see the consequence of that choice. Tom and Camille are partners, walking in a French forest. Camille is pregnant with their daughter.
They name her Sophie Rose, noting that Rose was a thread through things for Tom, a connection that spanned time, loss, and the tyranny of secrecy.
The core insight for the long-lived Alba is that life is not defined by mere survival, but by the quality of time spent in the present moment filled with love and uncertainty.
Tom, who had lived for 4 centuries, realized that the entirety of the human experience could be contained in a grain of sand, in a single second of connection.
The key to unlocking eternal life, paradoxically, is embracing the present and rejecting the fear of loss.
So what does this imply for us, the mayflies, who get perhaps 80 years if we're lucky?
If an immortal being finds life's purpose in small, precious, and uncertain moments, a shared laugh with a loved one, the scent of an old book that anchors them in a memory, or the revolutionary decision to trust, what does that imply for the value of our intensely finite mayfly lives?
The source mentions Marion's tattoo, under the greenwood tree, a song Tom taught her, representing her anchor to him.
And Tom's final thought to his unborn daughter is profoundly simple. The future is you.
For you, the listener, the provocative question is this: anchored in Tom Hazard's hard-won freedom.
If you knew your future was uncertain but guaranteed to contain both profound loss and profound joy, as life does for mayflies and albatrosses alike, what one thing would you anchor yourself to right now? A touchstone of integrity or love?
And what one fear would you finally let go of, rejecting Hendrick's philosophy that survival demands solitude?
We'll leave you with that thought as we step out of this deep dive.